for reestablishing credit. My name is Russ Evans, and tonight presenting with me is Alex Grimness, and you'll get to meet him in just a moment. Why are we here today? Well, we're not here for a sales pitch. We are here to talk about improving your credit and fulfilling our mission to empower you to live your best life. Tonight we're going to be talking about 6 steps to improving and repairing credit. This is me. I'm Russ Evans. I have been filing bankruptcies since about the year 2000 and have filed thousands of cases since that time. I don't necessarily do credit. I don't do credit repair, but it is something that comes up very often with all of my clients, wondering how bankruptcy is going to affect their credit, how they're going to rebound from a bankruptcy, and how they're going to reestablish their credit. Now I'm going to have Alex introduce himself because he'll be participating in just a few moments.
Thank you. I'll probably just hold this since I'll be quick. My name is Alex Grimness. I'm the president and co-owner of Premier Credit Consulting, and I'm just here to assist with content and provide as much information as possible to help everybody here improve their credit health and reach their credit goals for the long term.
Thanks, Alex. Alex is the specialist in this area, so I've given him carte blanche to interrupt me at any time and make sure that the information that I'm giving is the most up-to-date information that you could need or want. So credit and debt go hand in hand. Let's just get to the next one. Okay. So after this class, we're going to know how to find your credit score, how to reduce debt, how to improve your score, and you'll be confident, informed, and proactive, ready to go and get better credit. So here's tonight's agenda. We're going to talk about all 6 of these areas. So as I was saying, credit and debt go hand in hand. If you have faced challenges with debt, it's probably affected your credit. Others are maybe just starting out in life as adults and may need a way to establish their credit. So we're going to cover all of these topics. The first one is assessing your credit situation. So first of all, to assess your credit situation, you can check all 3 credit reports. Does anybody know the name of all 3? TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. Very good. And you'll be checking them with them to get a credit report. Well, what is a credit report? It is a document that summarizes your credit history, including credit accounts and payment history, includes information about your credit worthiness, helps lenders assess your risk of paying your bills on time. A credit report could contain the following: a list of businesses that have given you credit or loans, the total amount for each loan or credit limit for each card, how often you paid your credit or loans on time, and the amount you paid. It could reflect any missed or late payments as well as bad debts. I want to tell you about a website called www.annualcreditreport.com. You can go to this website and get a free credit report every year from all 3 bureaus. During the pandemic, they opened it up that you could go in weekly. And when I went into annualcreditreport.com today, it says you can still pull a weekly credit report. So it's as easy as going to that website, filling out their forms, picking the reports you want, and answering some personal questions to verify that you are who you say you are. You can print off those credit reports and then review them. You are reviewing them with an eye towards looking for inaccuracies, mistakes. There are also free credit score tracking apps. The creditreport.com is not going to give you your credit score. I use an app called Credit Karma, which I keep on my phone, and that gives me a daily, if I want to know my credit score, I can just open that app and it's going to tell me, and it will tell me if it's gone up or down or what's happening with it. Another one that also does that, I have not looked at myself, but I am told Credit Sesame will also do the same thing. So what is a credit score, right? It's this number that is a result of a mathematical formula that uses the information in your credit report to calculate a value which suggests how likely you are to pay your bills in the future. Credit ranges between 300 to 850, and a score of 700 to 740 is considered a good credit score. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So what can cause it to go up or down? Well, how much money you owe, how long you have owed it, how many new accounts you have, how often you miss or make late payments, and what types of accounts you have. Changes on any of these factors can make the score change. So based on what you find in your credit reports, remember you're looking for inaccuracies or things that don't make sense or are incorrect, then depending on what you find, you're then going to create a plan to then start repairing your credit. So the first thing in that plan is to dispute inaccurate information. Credit repair does not give you a way to remove negative information that is accurate and verifiable. So let me just say that one more time. If the information in your credit report is bad, but it's bad because it's accurate, because you didn't pay your bill on time or you didn't pay the credit, that's not something you can fix. The only fix for that is time. So you're looking for those things where they haven't given me credit for a payment that I've made, or this debt is paid off and it's still showing. So when you dispute an account, the credit bureau has to investigate and delete the item from your credit report if it isn't verified as accurate. Now, here's a fun statement. A deletion may or may not improve your credit. So there's no guarantees, right? But if it was a bad thing that was on your credit and it was wrong and it gets removed, hopefully that's going to improve your credit. A credit reporting bureau can report negative information for up to 7 years, and bankruptcy information can stay on your credit report for 10 years. And that's 10 years from when the bankruptcy is completed. So if you did a Chapter 13 bankruptcy and you were in it for 5 years, that reporting will happen during those 5 years, but it will go for 10 years after the discharge. So what do we do? Once we find these inaccuracies and we want to dispute them, we can send what is called a 609 dispute letter. And my notes that I had written a couple of years ago said, and you can just type that into Google and search that. And so I thought, well, I should follow my own advice. And so I typed 609 dispute letter into Google today. And the first thing that comes up is, what is a 609 dispute letter? And then there are templates. All sorts of people giving you templates. And Alex has told me today that you can also get templates from the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. So you can go to Google, but you'll have to do a little bit of searching and you will find those templates for that letter. We would suggest that you never send more than 5 dispute letters within a 30-day period, or you will risk being labeled as frivolous. Best practices would be to send 2 to 3 disputes per month. Does that sound?
Yeah, usually it's 1 per credit bureau.
One per.
Within that 30-day dispute period.
Very good. And that these should be sent by certified mail. And then you need to wait. You need to wait for a response, and that could take 30 to 45 days to get a response. What will they do when they get this information? Well, they'll research it, and they will either delete and correct the information, or they'll verify back to you that there was no inaccuracy. If you feel like you are right and that they are wrong, you can follow up with the bureau. You can also follow up with the creditor who's providing them that inaccurate information, or you can submit a complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So I figured if I'm telling you to do things, then I should also do those same things. So I went to the website of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which we all just call the CFPB. And their website is very nice, and it gives you all sorts of things for disputing credit reports. So there's all sorts of information on the CFPB's website as well. Let's see, you can also hire a credit repair company to help you do this. They will charge you fees for that. I would suggest that you watch out for credit repair companies that promise too much, that pretend that they can guarantee you that every dispute is going to improve your credit. Because, like I just said earlier, it may or may not improve your credit. If you have been defrauded by a credit repair company, you can contact the local Consumer Affairs Office or your state attorney general. So now I'm going to ask Alex to talk a little bit about his credit repair company and how they operate as a credit repair company, and then he's going to talk about the next 2 subjects.
Awesome, thank you. And Russ, do you mind if I add just a couple things to this as well?
I'd love for you to add as much as you would like.
Because it's great information, and in my experience over the past 14 years, this is probably where the most misinformation comes from when it comes to people who are trying to improve their credit. A lot of people think about disputing, like you had mentioned, as if it's some type of magic wand, right? That you can just make things disappear from your credit report. when in reality it's not the case. But approximately 16% of the population will dispute an account annually with the credit bureaus, okay? And the challenge there is that for a lot of consumers who are trying to improve their credit or recover from a life event like a divorce, job loss, medical emergency, something that hindered their credit health, oftentimes if there are inaccuracies or outdated accounts or accounts that are unverifiable, consumers don't know their rights. So one thing that I would like to add to this is your rights are listed in the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which gives you the right as a consumer to dispute. So it's actually your right as a consumer to enforce the credit bureaus to ensure that you have 100% fair and accurate information. The other unique thing is the statute of limitations that you mentioned, the 7 to 10 years. When it comes to derogatory accounts such as collections and charge-offs and other types of derogatory accounts, these are going to have different statutes. And what a lot of people misunderstand is that for collections, for example, it's not 7 years from when the account was opened. It's 7 years from the date of last activity on the account. So oftentimes what happens is people will have collections that are 5 years old on their credit report. They call and they pay them. It updates the date of last activity, and sometimes that can have a negative impact on their credit score. And this is why the process of improving credit can really become complicated for people. So the information that Russ provided, which is protecting yourself and taking action, is perfect because a lot of people feel overwhelmed by this. And if you know what your rights are, and you know how to find dispute letters and free dispute templates, and you know how to monitor your credit, that's enough information that you need to take action to proactively start to improve your credit. So is that okay?
Yes, that's awesome.
Awesome. As far as credit repair companies go, you nailed it on the head. Credit repair companies are very unique. We are a licensed credit service organization in the state of Utah. And our company focuses on helping people improve their credit health by not only removing or fixing derogatory items, but also helping to build healthy credit and then resolve accurate items that are holding them back from being able to reach their credit score goals. A lot of credit repair companies are built this way, but a couple things that you want to look out for when it comes to credit repair companies. The first thing is, are they licensed with the Division of Consumer Protection if they're here in the state of Utah? The second thing, which Russ nailed on the head, is that credit repair companies oftentimes guarantee certain things that cannot be guaranteed, like specific credit score increases. It is pretty much impossible to give an accurate credit score increase estimate, right? So anybody that says, oh, no problem, I'll get you to a 720 in 30 days type thing, that's highly unlikely that they're going to nail that on the head. So giving guarantees about things that seem unlikely, like specific credit score increases or removing information that could potentially be accurate, those are a couple red flags to look out for when it comes to credit repair. So any questions on that? Okay, awesome. Next slide, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. So,
For you.
awesome, my favorite. I'm really bad off of going off of structured content, so this is great. So paying down debts. One of the most important things to understand about paying down debts if you're trying to improve your credit is knowing which accounts to pay down. Obviously, paying off debt is a good thing from a financial responsibility standpoint. But if you're trying to improve your credit score, certain debts have a bigger impact than other types of debts. So for example, revolving credit lines, credit cards, things like that, have a greater impact on your credit score than installment loans when they're paid off, okay, or paid down. So what we're going to talk about today is specific to revolving credit lines. And the reason I want to talk about that is because for the first time in history, we just surpassed $1 trillion in credit card debt in the United States, okay? So it's a huge, huge burden for a lot of consumers. So you've probably seen a lot of strategies out there when it comes to paying down credit cards. There are a couple kind of solid go-tos. The debt avalanche is a good one, and then the debt snowball. Those two are fairly similar, but there are a couple things that differentiate them. The debt snowball, you're essentially starting with the smallest debt and the smallest minimum payment, doubling that payment, working on that specific card while you're paying the minimums on all of your other cards until that one is paid off. Then you take that amount that you were paying towards that first credit card, apply it to the minimum on the next credit card, and now you're starting to snowball and paying off your credit card debt. This is something that is gratifying because for a lot of people, they like to see those credit cards being paid off completely, okay? The debt avalanche is different. The debt avalanche is specific to interest rates associated with your credit cards, which if you've looked at your credit card statement recently, you're probably astounded at what it is, right? We're looking at credit card interest rates that are no longer 15, 16%. They're up in the high 20s, okay? So if you have high interest credit cards, the debt avalanche is starting with the credit card that has the highest interest rate, working to pay that off first, and then moving to the next one that has the second highest interest rate. They're both effective, but here's the secret, okay? You need to have a plan when it comes to paying off credit card debt. What I see oftentimes is a lot of people get very motivated to pay off debt, but they don't have a plan, and they don't have a strategy. And it becomes very burdensome and very frustrating because it can take a little bit of time. So if you have a plan and you're consistent, then it's going to increase the likelihood that you're going to reach your goal of paying off your credit card debt. So whatever the strategy is that you choose, whatever the plan that you put into place, whatever it is, just make sure that you exercise that plan, and that's going to be kind of the secret to helping you reach your long-term credit goals when it comes to paying off debts. Any questions on that? Awesome. Okay. Responsible credit habits. This is probably one of my favorite topics to talk about because credit is very much associated with habits. For a lot of people, we grew up in a situation where our parents told us, pay your accounts on time, pay your debts on time, you'll have good credit. Sometimes it can be a little bit more complicated than that, but for the most part, if you establish healthy credit habits, you are going to put yourself in a better situation to reach your credit goals and maintain your credit goals. So what are healthy credit habits? One of the first things that we recommend is monitoring your credit on a regular basis. Surprises when it comes to credit can be very difficult, especially if it's a derogatory item that's the surprise, like a collection or identity theft. So if you're monitoring your credit, definitely look at your credit score, but you want to look at the report like Russ said. It's great content that he gave, which is look at the credit report and look for anything that is inaccurate, unverifiable, misleading, or outdated. In addition to that, go down and look at the inquiry section. If people have been applying for credit in your name, it will show an inquiry. That's an early sign of potential identity theft. And you have protections, right? If you have people applying for credit in your name, you can freeze your credit profiles for free with each credit bureau, okay? And that will keep people from being able to get access to your credit. So catching identity theft early and catching derogatory accounts when they show up on your credit report early are really important when it comes to protecting your credit health for the long term. So monitoring your credit on a monthly basis is a really strong credit habit to develop. The second one is having a game plan for how you use credit cards. This is something that can be effective whether you're buying a house, whether you're buying a car, whatever it might be. So knowing how to use credit cards effectively to optimize your credit scores can give you a boost, and that's a habit that you can build. So for example, if you have credit cards that you use consistently, whether it's for groceries or whatever it is, knowing what the limit is, how much you're spending, and then getting in a routine of either paying the account off or paying it down every month is going to help you maintain a healthy credit score for the long term. What we oftentimes see is people will carry really high credit card balances and then they go in and apply for a mortgage and they quickly try to implement a strategy to pay them off, right? If you can have strong habits with maintaining your credit card balances, that's going to be one way that you can maintain healthy credit for the long term. And then another healthy credit habit that we recommend is don't apply for credit that's unnecessary, okay? This is where inquiries come in. But if you're going out and you're applying for credit aggressively, that could potentially negatively impact your credit score. So be careful, you know, if you're at a store and they give you 20% off to open a credit card to buy that shirt or whatever it is, know that if you do that too much, if you have too many inquiries over a set period of time, that can lower your credit score. So those are some healthy credit habits that you can implement to maintain healthy credit and build your credit score.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, come on there.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate having the expert with me today. So now we're going to talk about building new credit. So a couple of different ways to build new credit. Here's a real easy one. If you have somebody that would let you be added on as an authorized user to their credit card, you could do that. They don't have to give you access to a card, but they could add you as an authorized user, but then that account may then report to your credit report. You can open a credit card. I would suggest that you find the lowest interest rate you can get and also the card with the lowest fees. If you're looking for a place to compare that, I have looked before at nerdwallet.com, and that will compare different credit cards and talk about their fees and their interest rates. You can open a secured credit card. For example, the Discover It secured credit card. You give them $500, and then you can spend against that $500, and as you're repaying that $500 back, you're repaying it back to yourself. So if it's discovered that you did that through there, they have no risk. It's your money that you're spending each time, and that can help your credit. We already talked about inquiries and applying for credit cards, so be careful about that. Keep credit available on your cards. Keep the balance lower than 30% of the credit limit. That means if you have a $1,000 credit limit, keep that around $300 or lower, and this shows that you are being responsible at managing your credit. There's also something called a credit builder loan, which is a loan designed to help build credit. That's why they call it that, since that's what it does. On that loan, you're making equal monthly payments for the life of the loan, and then you receive the funds after you have paid the loan in full. So you're taking out a loan, they're not giving you the money, you pay into it, and when you've paid, let's say it was a $1,000 loan, when you've paid in the $1,000, you get those $1,000 back because you paid them in. Using that together with a secured credit card can provide a diversity of accounts and a good mix that could benefit your credit score. A little bit more about credit builder loans. They are a good way for people with no credit or limited credit history to build their credit scores. It can thicken their credit file and enhance their savings. A credit builder loan can help borrowers polish scores by making on-time payments that are reported to at least one of the major credit bureaus. Like I said, once all the payments are made, the lender releases the full amount to the borrower, who can then use it as an emergency fund to meet other savings goals. They're typically offered by smaller banks and credit unions. Most loans are $300 to $1,000 with a term of 6 to 24 months. The annual percentage rates and fees on those will vary, but are usually pretty small. A credit builder loan may not make sense if you're already on the credit radar, have a low credit score due to missed payments, or you need the loan amount right away. So a credit builder is something you're doing very much in advance as a way to establish your credit. The last thing is wait. Credit repair requires patience. It does not happen overnight. It depends on the state of your credit and the number of inaccuracies on your report. The only thing that will remove accurate negative reporting is time. It will also take time before the effects of your new accounts and positive behavior are felt. The key is to be patient and stick with your plan and your strategies. By staying responsible, even people with the worst credit can eventually qualify for desirable loans and better credit cards with great rates. Okay, so sometimes credit repair is just not the right thing or the right place for you to start. You may need a bankruptcy. You may need debt settlement. You may even need a family law attorney to help you sort things out. I get referred bankruptcies all the time from lenders people go to see about buying a house, and then the lender looks at their credit report and says, oh, you know what? This isn't going to happen right now. Maybe you need to do a bankruptcy first to try to clear off these things that are on your credit that might look a little bit insurmountable. So how do you know what to do? Well, I believe everybody in this room has heard my crude example before, but I'm going to give it again. So it's the example of the toilet. So imagine you're in a toilet bowl, and you're just, the water's going, and you're just going around in that toilet bowl. And let's say you could get an extra job or work some extra hours, and by doing that, that would increase the water in the toilet bowl, and you could reach up to the lip of the toilet bowl and pull yourself out. Then I would say, if you can do that, bankruptcy is not for you. But if you're swirling that drain every month and it's all you can do to not get sucked into that drain, then perhaps bankruptcy is a way for you to begin to repair your credit. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it can be the case. So that is my last thought about this and credit repair. I appreciate everyone's being here, and are there any questions that we can take? Are there any questions from anybody online?
I have just a couple questions. So it typically takes 7 to 10 years to get something like a bankruptcy off your credit report. Is that what I understand?
Yes.
So is it essentially that for those 10 years, I'm not going to be able to build my credit up above a certain score? Or are there things that I can do to outweigh that that major ding on my credit report?
That is a great question. Yes, there are things you can do to improve that. Even though that's sitting on your credit and it's a negative reporting, you can have other good things on your credit that can be raising it. But I'm going to have the expert talk about that.
Nice.
Surprise.
You answered it perfectly. The answer is really simple. Yes, you absolutely can start to rebuild credit after a bankruptcy, and it can start to balance out the negative impact of that account. One of the things that we recommend, and we talked about here, is the habit forming early, because the last thing we want is for people to get back into bad habits with credit. So after bankruptcy, if it's okay, if I can talk about that. But post bankruptcy, learning how to use credit is equally as important as establishing credit. So you had brought up secured credit cards. They're an amazing low-risk tool to start to use credit and to build those effective habits, right? So, and what you're going to start to see is that's going to start to balance out, and then you can start to grow into those credit lines. So that's just one example of ways that you can kind of rebuild after a bankruptcy. Even though that's going to be on there for a while, over time, the impact that it's going to have is going to be less and less.
So definitely don't wait until the 7 to 10 years and it's off to start this process. You can start it as soon as you filed and
You can start that credit repair the minute you're in your bankruptcy, because you're going to continue. If you had a house, you'd continue to make that house payment. That would continue to report to your credit. If you had a car payment, same thing. I've had a client who exited bankruptcy with a credit score. So he'd been in the bankruptcy for nearly 5 years, and at the end of those 5 years, his credit was back up in the 700s. I don't know how typical that is. That's the only person that's ever told me that, but that gave me a lot of hope for people and their ability to improve their credit.
And then, I don't know much about the credit repair, so how long is a typical relationship with a credit repair agency and an individual looking to repair that? Is that a 2 to 5 year kind of relationship? Are you in and out within 6 months of that dynamic? What does that relationship look like?
Yeah.
The client and an agency.
Great question. So it's all going to be dependent on what the work is being performed on that file. So, some companies, you might be with them for a really long time. Some companies, you might only be with them for a couple months. It is dependent on the casework. I can tell you, from an average with our company, that client is usually with us for about 6 to 8 months is average. But like I said, it's going to be dependent on the work that has to be completed. One of the things that I would, recommend is if you're ever looking into credit repair is when you're asking questions about time frame, also asking questions about the work being performed during that time frame. What can you expect? When are you going to be communicated with? What do the results look like? Because sometimes, like what Russ said, it's easy to kind of get frustrated with the process because it does take time, right? And so having clear expectations of what to expect during the process, knowing what the communication is going to look like, those are really important questions to ask, in my opinion.
And just a range, if you could give me a range, what would a typical person, if their fees are between X and X, they're getting a fair, they're being treated fairly.
Yeah.
Is there an appropriate range there? I mean, too little, and they're probably not getting the services that they need. And then obviously there's two. Do you have a range that people could expect when they're sitting down with these agencies?
It's a great question. Unfortunately, I don't have a direct answer for it. But I will tell you, for example, each state is going to have kind of their own outlines. So here in the state of Utah, it does have to be a reasonable fee, and it has to be charged in a very specific manner. So maybe some red flags would be a better way to answer that. Some red flags would be if a company approaches you and says, hey, pay me $5,000, I'll remove all of the derogatory stuff from your credit report, but you got to pay me up front. That is very much a red flag, right? Companies who seek, really large sums of money up front without the work being performed is usually a red flag.
So a lot of structures are milepost payment type structures.
Most structures are going to be based upon services performed over a 30-day period of time.
Gotcha.
Yep, and then you're paying for those services that happened the previous 30 days.
So it seems like it's mostly a monthly payment with most credit repair companies.
Correct.
You're paying them a monthly to provide the services.
Yep, and some companies are going to be a little bit different. Some companies get really creative and they're still compliant, right?
Okay.
So I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. There might be other models out there, but the traditional credit repair model, the most popular, is usually based upon services rendered the previous 30 days.
Yeah, I actually have experience with your company. It
Awesome.
completely changed my life, actually. So I know this isn't a sales pitch, but seriously, it was amazing for me. I had a parent who kindly opened up a lot of accounts in my name when I was young, and was able to work with your guys' group. And over the course of about 6 months, and so for me, I think I paid like an initial setup fee. I think it was like $100 or $150 a month, and I was at like a 500 on my credit score, and they were able to help me get a ton of the stuff removed, and now I'm up to like an 800. So
That's awesome.
one of my proudest accomplishments.
That's
but
great.
I think especially as like a young kid where I was like, I had no idea where to even start with this. And so just having people that just were like, we got you, and like helped take care of all the nuances of that stuff, because it's super overwhelming. But anyway, so thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Question.
Yes.
What is a credit inaccuracy, and how often should you check?
A credit, an inaccuracy would be something that's on your credit report that is inaccurate, that is a mistake, it is wrong. It doesn't reflect reality. So if you made your payments on this credit card and it's showing that you haven't made the payments, that would be something that's inaccurate that you could get them to fix. That would be something that, does that sound right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Should you check only when your credit dips, or like how often?
I would, what do the experts say, check monthly?
Monthly. Yeah.
And you can do that with that annualcreditreport.com, or also you can then check your score monthly if you get the Credit Karma app.
Credit Karma, it just sends me like a text or email anytime anything is weird, and it's free.
It's free, yeah.
10 out of 10 right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it.
And they send you feel-good emails too. Congratulations, you're up.
Yeah, or like, you paid your credit cards on time this month. Good job, Russ. Not just this month, but every month, all right? Okay, let's see if we have any other slides left. Just our information on how to get in touch with it. I put my phone number up there, my direct line, and my Elysium email. And we have upcoming classes. This is the new schedule. This is the old schedule. But we have another one coming up on April 9th, which is Junior Money Matters, Teaching Your Children. And that's going to be given by Brady Tanner, and that sounds like a great, great class. Thank you for your attendance, both in person and over the internet, and wish you the best.